Hey, ladies and gents, welcome to Talking Music, where producers, musicians, and artists alike come to learn how to get a professional sound that will compete on a commercial level. My name is Kukuletu. I'm the owner of TalkingMusic.com, and today I'll be talking about gain staging. If you haven't subscribed, then you are missing out. So make sure that you click the subscribe button and click the notification bell so that you can stay updated. Let's get started then. Now, the reason you want to do gain staging is to avoid digital clipping. Now, the difference between digital clipping and analog clipping is that analog clipping sounded much more smoother and it was musical distortion. And then for digital clipping, it sounds really terrible. And the disadvantage is that it will mess up your transient. It will mess up the transient of the lower bass sounds, like your kick, your bass, and everything that will be playing in the lower frequencies, because it will cut out the transients. Your mix will lose a lot of punch. That's the disadvantage of digital clipping. So what is digital clipping? Let me part of the song and then show you what digital clipping is. Basically, it's red lights. As you can see, the master channel is being overloaded. So you don't want it. That is digital clipping. That's why you see red lights. The goal is to make sure that you mix at healthy levels. And another reason you want to mix at healthy levels is because analog emulation plugins have a sweet spot. We'll talk about that later on when we talk about VU meters. And in this video, I'll show you 2 ways to do gain staging. So let's get started with the most simple and straightforward way. The simplest way is to highlight all your sounds and then just make sure that in the master channel, your entire song is peaking at around -12 to around -15 dBs. All you'll do is to clip gain all your individual tracks. The most simplest way and the most easiest way. It's pretty straightforward. And then after this, you can start working on your balance and then start mixing your song. That's the easiest way. Now, if you are using Cubase, let me undo all this stuff first. If you are using Cubase, then you also have the option to use pre-gain. Now, what pre-gain is, the mixer doesn't always show pre-gain, so you always have to make sure that you enable it in your mixer. And then highlight all your sounds. Then link all your sounds, and then play the song. That's another option that you can use if you are using Cubase. But if you are using anything besides Cubase, then you can use clip gain. So that's the first way to do gain staging. Make sure that you don't use your faders. Like I see some people highlighting everything and then link everything, play the song. You don't want to do this. You don't want to end up with something like this, because if something is way too loud, then what you're going to do is the problem with going this too low is that if you are here, maybe at around the 0 dB mark, you're getting much more resolution. So when you decrease something or when you increase something, you increase or decrease it by 1/4 or 1/2 dB. But when you are way too low, a small move can go like 1 dB or even more. So that's the problem with going too low. You get less resolution on your faders. So make sure that you don't touch your faders during gain staging. That's the key. And then after you've done your pre-gain or your clip gain, then you can start balancing your mix and then mix your song. It's that easy. Don't complicate it. And then the most recommended way is to use VU meters. Now, let me insert a VU meter. What you can do is to insert a VU meter on each individual channel, or you can be lazy like me and then simply use one VU meter for all your channels. So what you'll do is and then solo each and every individual sound. And then make sure that all the individual sound are peaking at around 3 or 0 dB on the VU meter. Make sure that there's no sound that is going way above 0 dB on the VU meter. Make sure that your VU meter is calibrated at 18 dBs. That's the sweet spot for analog emulation plugins. All analog emulation plugins have a sweet spot of minus 18 dB on the actual DAW peak meter. This is a peak meter. It doesn't read volume as the VU meter. And then what you do is to do the same thing for each and every sound. This one we can decrease it a bit, maybe. Now, just because 3 to 0 dB is a sweet spot, what you don't want to do is to increase maybe let's say because the overheads were a bit lower, and then you want to increase them to 0 so that they can reach the sweet spot. You don't want to do that because the audio will clip. As you can see, it's peaking at 1 dB, but it's already clipping. So that's why I recommend that you don't increase any volume. Instead, you decrease all the sounds that are way too loud. And then you want to do this for all the sounds. I hope you guys are not getting bored, but I'm just making sure that you understand the entire process. What you want to do is to go to a section where the particular sound is too loud. Make sure that nothing is peaking above 0 dB. And as you can see, these are definitely not peaking above 0 dB. With experience, you get to see which sounds will be peaking at above 0 dB. Like for instance, I can see that the bass will actually Then let's move on to the vocals.
Mais toi tu vois rien, tu es bête, tu ignores ta mouchette. Elle se tient, tu la tiens. Bête, tu ignores ta mouchette. Bête, tu
slide guitar. Then let's move on to the clef. So once you have that done, then all your analog emulation plugins will definitely sound really, really dope. So that's the advantage of using VU meters, because your plugin will be at a sweet spot. Now, you want to do this in the clip gain or the pre-gain, because the fader is post-fader. This is after all the effects. So this is the chain. It starts with the routing, the pre-gain, the insets. Actually, it starts with the clip gain, the routing, the pre-gain, the insert, the EQ, the strip, the sense, and then it goes to the fader. That's how audio flows in the mixer. This is for Cubase, of course, but it's usually the same in all DAWs. The fader is always post, it's never pre. So even if you decrease this volume here, it will still be above the sweet spot. So make sure that you don't touch faders so that you can get more resolution, like I said before. And then once you have that done, what you need, the next step is to group everything. Make sure that you send everything into passes, like your drums have a pass, your percussions have a pass, bass. If you have multiple bass sounds, they all go to a certain pass, guitars, vocals, etc. So let's do that. Let's call this one Tech. Bass as well. Bass is always mono. I don't want the bass to be stereo. Lead vocals also mono. LV. Backings and the vocal pack can be stereo. Then the guitars can be stereo as well. It's not an issue. All of these groups are routed to the mix bus, and they don't go straight to the stereo out. That's another lesson for another day, but I think I've mentioned this before in my previous videos. And then the next thing you want to do is to make sure that the entire song is peaking below 0 dB on the VU meter. So let's do that. And then once you've got that, then you can start balancing your mix and then start mixing your song. And that's how you do gain staging. It's either you do it using clip gain, you can do it using pre-gain, and you can do it using VU meters. And I hope you found this tutorial valuable. If you did find the tutorial useful, make sure that you smash the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Click the notification bell so that YouTube can notify you every time I upload a new video. For more mixing tutorials, check out talkinmusic.com/books, and you'll find more tutorials about mixing and mastering to make sure that you get a professional sound that will compete on a commercial level. Leave a comment below if you have any questions. You know I always respond. Take good care. We'll talk again soon. Cheers.